Yeah, so if you can tell me your name, and I'll just cut it into the theme song that we have.
My name is Mike Fallek.
And Alan, talking about movies. They may be best friends, but they always disagree.
Mike Fallek.
And Alan, I seen that.
Of Big Weasel, Little Weasel, or Let's Start a Cult podcast.
And so what is your show about?
It's an anti-groupthink show about we discuss all sorts of things. Like last week we talked about why people get so offended at when in arguments with complete strangers someone makes fun of their mother. We think people get too offended at that.
Yeah. Like someone who doesn't know their mother at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Why? So that's clearly a sort of groupthink thing. That's one of the easier ones we do. But we're just, in general, for independent thinking. Another one we did, for example, was should we get rid of form letters? The idea that form letters have been around so long that perhaps they have outlasted their usefulness. But it's all about getting people to think independently and getting them to realize whether or not they're thinking like the group, which sounds very serious, but it's mostly a comedy podcast where me and my co-host shout at each other because he refuses to educate himself. And we're also on Soundbite, which is SOUNDBYTE, and we have 3 series on Soundbite coming out in September. So hopefully that'll be out at the same time. And that's Let's Start a Cult podcast on Soundbite, which we're doing a series about a vegetable dating service where it's veggies sort of doing video dating, and they're gonna tell you why you should date them.
Yeah.
Cavemen explaining modern technology, and educating Deepu, who's my co-host. So it's Soundbite is a 14-second podcast app that's it's for small podcasters, and they're creating this content with us. So we're very excited about that.
Oh, that's cool.
That's all me podcasting wise.
Yeah. Well, this show is mostly about movies and doesn't quite get as in-depth into the meaning of life as your first show sounded.
I mean, we don't either. What mostly ends up happening is good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Mostly I think we are going to get into the meaning of life, and then something along the lines of my co-host won't understand who Thomas Edison is, and we'll pretend he understands who that person is, and then I'll have to confront him on knowing who. It's mostly about getting my co-host to admit he doesn't know anything.
Gotcha.
So it's much less serious as the meaning of life.
That's kind of my show too. I just try to embarrass my co-host as much as possible.
One day I'll make a documentary which is about podcast hosts and the clearly more type A personality in the group. Yeah. Really about how almost across the board that person tries to embarrass their co-host. Pretty much universally, that is what everyone says to me. Yeah. So,
well, that's the whole reason to have a podcast.
Right. It's just to embarrass someone else on a weekly basis.
Yeah. Well, I have a movie. Do you want me to give you the year? My co-host prides himself in being able to guess the year of almost any movie within 2 years.
So would I get, if you want to give me all the trivia and then the year, or the year and then all the trivia?
Okay, I'll give you the trivia first and see if we can get it from that.
And then if I don't get it, give me the year.
Yeah.
And then we'll see if I can get it. I like that.
So, let's see. Lizzie Kaplan did not know what film she was auditioning for. She thought it was for a romantic movie until her second audition.
Okay. I'll need the...
Yeah, that's when she learned even the genre. She didn't know what the movie was until after that point. There is no music score, and the music at the end credits doesn't even begin until a minute and a half. About
Open Water?
No.
Okay.
That's a good guess, though. About 104 recorded people left the theater suffering from dizziness and motion sickness.
Cloverfield.
Yes.
Oh, I was so close on Open Water.
Yeah, that was actually really good.
Cloverfield is 2014?
8.
2000. Oh my gosh, is it that old?
Yeah, we're getting old. That's what happens.
I knew the dizziness one because I did a documentary where I didn't want to stabilize the footage, and I had to tell someone watching it that they said, well, why don't you go back and do that? And I said, it's honestly not worth it because either some people can watch shaky footage or some people can't.
Yeah.
Which Cloverfield got a lot of flack for this shaky cam thing, but now it seems as though VR is somehow able to dodge this criticism, even though if you put a blindfold on and spin around, you will get motion sick. But it's so weird that movie Cloverfield died under this criticism of motion sickness, but VR seems to be able to brush it off at every turn. It's very strange to me.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, so I just watched The Defenders, the Marvel. Did you watch that at all? The Marvel Netflix shows?
I have a Marvel issue.
Oh, okay.
Everyone is Marvel and now it is kind of DC too. I saw Guardians of the Galaxy just because I think that whole it's just a charm movie. Everyone is just charmed. But what I rewatched V for Vendetta because that's one of my favorite movies. I'm a big Alan Moore fan. People need to start making choices. It sounds like a horrible thing to say out loud, but if you're never going to have an enemy that's a human, if you're never going to choose a moral stance where the good guys might kill, real people and make a choice, you're not going to grab us. It's all robots. It's all we need to get this thing, and it's so dull.
Yeah, no, I agree. The point I was bringing up about The Defenders is all the action scenes, you can't even see what's going on. It's like the Bourne Identity, but if you turned off all the lights.
That's so sad too, because the big thing people were saying about which Daredevil, which I only watched a little of, but I did watch the action scenes on Netflix, not like on YouTube or anything. It was real kung fu.
Yeah.
I thought this was a return to kung fu. That is very sad to hear that they've now resorted to the cut on action, the cutaway, the blur screens. That's sad.
Yeah,
that's sad to hear.
It was awful because Daredevil, the first season, the action is amazing. It's really good.
It's old school kung fu. It's old boy type action. It's real action. It was real martial arts. It's sad to hear that they're going the other way on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're trying to do too much too soon, and they're not giving it time to grow into something better.
But you know what? And now that what's doubly sad about that is if you're saying to me, okay, Green Arrow, they're cutting away from action. Well, it's an arrow. Aren't all of the Defenders hand-to-hand combat fighters?
Yeah, pretty much.
So there's no reason to cut away.
No.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it's pretty egregious. It's pretty disappointing when watching it this last couple weeks.
Speaking of disappointing, did you see the second Cloverfield?
I have not. It has been on my list for so long.
It is a great movie. I will say that. But its biggest mistake is calling itself Cloverfield.
Yeah, that's what. Well, I heard it was made and went to the festivals, and then it got picked up by J.J. Abrams, who then changed the name.
Really? Oh, I didn't even know that. Because that year of sci-fi, I was looking forward to those couple of years of 2007 through 11. I was waiting for two sequels to come out: Cloverfield 2 and District 9 2.
Yeah.
And Cloverfield District 9 2 never happened, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then this Cloverfield sequel, it was like, I don't understand how this is at all related.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not, from what I understand. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But from what I heard, it was completely independent, and the Cloverfield was just to get people interested, is why they put it in the title.
But then why even do that? Because everyone hated Cloverfield. So it's like, what, you just want sci-fi fans to go see this movie? Like, it's so weird to throw in Cloverfield.
Yeah.
You would have been better off calling it J.J. Abrams, The Housening, or whatever you wanted. Like, you would have been better off slapping his name on it, because people are seeing those Star Trek junks.
Yeah, that's true.
That they're calling Star Trek. So we can talk about J.J. Abrams. I guess is a natural way to go with this.
Yeah, we have no format.
That guy's lost the plot, right? Like, of
Are you
everything
talking about
he
the
does.
TV show?
Just everything he does.
Ah,
He gets what TV show does he have now?
Well, I was talking about Lost. I thought I was just.
Oh no! Oh, well, good point.
Yeah.
He himself is on an island of lost plots in a fog of not being able to remember who he was or what Star Trek is actually about.
Yeah, I think it's a similar thing that happened to what's his name? The guy who did Sixth Sense and The Happening.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. Like, everyone was so impressed with him at the beginning that you just can't live up to that. You can't.
I'll say this. I think he's the reverse. I think M. Night Shyamalan has stuck to what he wants to do, except for The Last Airbender. He has stuck exactly to what he wants to do. I think it's everybody else that expects something different.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at The Happening, if you look at The Village, it is this idea of, like I always say when he made The Last Airbender, people are like, oh, it was going to be so great. I was like, he made a superhero movie called Unbreakable where the superhero never threw a punch. So why were you expecting him to make a good anime action, live action movie, which is already the most impossible genre on planet Earth, from a guy who admittedly doesn't understand action?
Well, After Earth was awful too, just to throw that
Is
out.
that him?
He wrote it. Yeah, with Will Smith, and they kind of kept it a secret. They didn't really talk about him doing it. But
well, they keep him a secret until he directed The Last Airbender, the live action.
Mm-hmm.
There are only a few, like in the comic book ads for The Last Airbender DVDs, M. Night Shyamalan's name appears on them, but it is a secret. But it is definitely true that M. Night Shyamalan is an executive producer of all of the Last Airbender cartoons, and he just elected to direct the live action in theater movie, I think simply to help the series. But he is, I think he's passionate about Asian mythology and things like that. And this was his way of adding to that without having to write it or without having to entrench himself as an Asian director doing an Asian thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't speak too much about it. He seems to want to have this air about him. I didn't know he wrote After Earth. There's some thing amongst the movie fans that say After Earth is supposed to be a secret kind of reboot of Battlefield Earth and
really?
Will Smith's Scientology connection.
Yeah.
That After Earth, written by L. Ron Hubbard, that they couldn't make that again because of what a flop it was. But that's interesting to know. I mean, that definitely isn't true if M. Night Shyamalan's connected.
Yeah. I don't know anything about that part, but it was awful. The movie. That's about all I know. Did you see it?
I have seen it on occasions. I've seen 4 or 5 minutes when I'm at someone's house with HBO.
Okay.
Like their TV is on and they're saying, "Let me get in the shower," and so I get to watch a few minutes of After. From what I can tell, Jaden Smith is very injured, and so is Will Smith. Everyone's injured. It's an injury movie,
Yes.
from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Other than that, I honestly couldn't even evaluate whether it's good or bad. But everyone seems to be injured.
Yeah. Well, they do that thing where they have weird accents of the future, like, oh, this is going to be the amalgamation of everyone's accents type of a thing. Like their projection.
So that's definitely why people think it's a Battlefield Earth. I don't know much about Battlefield Earth or any sort of Scientology conspiracies, but I imagine that's something L. Ron Hubbard would do.
Yeah. I never saw Battlefield Earth. That seemed like everyone knew it was gonna be awful even before it came out.
So L. Ron Hubbard, if it's hard to talk about him in modern days, but if you ignore his religion entirely, he is actually a very talented sci-fi writer. He did have a talent for it, and I've never read Battlefield Earth, the book, but it is, I think, definitely suffering from his reputation nowadays, simply because I think hardcore sci-fi fans would like it. I can only get up to the edge of hardcore sci-fi, but it is very heavy sci-fi, and visually to watch Battlefield Earth is actually a treat. I don't think that there's a lot of movies that look like it. I've never watched it trying to understand what's going on. It's one of those things where I'll say, put it on, and I just want to see, Klingon John Travolta and all these other strange things. Because it was right before the CGI era.
Yeah, yeah.
It's right before that happened, so it's a lot of the ability to make all these effects. It's one of those things where I don't want an opinion on it. I think that itself might be a waste of brain.
Yeah, well, so L. Ron Hubbard got paid by the page when he
wrote on parchment paper.
Yeah,
he wrote on butcher's paper. Yeah, I have a lot of. I know it's going to sound bad, but I don't want to say respect, but you have to respect his gumption at the very least. You have to respect him as a writer and his gumption.
Well, I think
that's the most.
The most published,
prolific writer.
Yeah, he's had the most words published. He's got to be towards the top.
I know that Scientology touts he is the most. I don't. Now with the era of blogging, we're running into whether or not that stat is true anymore, because we are back in a pulp era. We're back in that era of content is king and things like that. So I imagine a new victor will come on top. Probably someone we've never heard of, which is fascinating. We're probably a ghostwriter none of us ever knew wrote all these different books. Will come on top at the end of this digital era as the greatest, in volume writer of all time.
Yeah, maybe they can start a religion.
Hopefully they do, and hopefully it will be. like it's so awkward to talk about. There's not even to say like respecting his gumption is a really hard thing to say out loud and a hard thing to swallow. I'm saying it in the same way you have to respect a coal miner's gumption, where there's a lot of other horrible things going on in a 1920s coal miner's life, but you have to respect the get up and go. It's a really hard line to cross, and it makes me feel a little queasy to even to even talk about. But at the same time, John Travolta, Klingon, something to at least search what John Travolta looks like in Battlefield Earth is the good thing to take away from all of this.
Yeah, has Jonathan Travolta been in any good movies? I feel like this is a similar thing to the conversation I was having about Nicolas Cage. That he's in a lot.
I very much am happy you talked about Nick Cage. Nick Cage is in. I'll point out one that you might. I don't think you guys mentioned.
Okay.
Have you ever seen Bad Lieutenant Port of Call?
I have not.
So it is by Werner Herzog, and it's one of Werner Herzog's only remake movies. And Werner Herzog directs Nick Cage, and he doesn't. It's if you don't know how Werner Herzog directs fiction, not nonfiction. When he directs fiction, he believes in creating genuine moments where he wants the actors to feel as though perhaps they don't exactly understand what's going on and they're in a natural situation. His most famous of this is in his movie Fitzcarraldo, which is the true story of someone dragging a boat over the mountains that separate the Pacific and the Amazon. He just did it. He just said, well, it's the same amount of money. Why don't we do the same thing? Why don't we hire natives to carry a boat over the mountain? And so the extras, when they're annoyed, they are annoyed because they are the same annoyed, is his theory. And so he didn't direct Port of Call that way. It's a traditional studio made in America, which is sometimes I think Werner's problem is that he's not allowed to hire natives, which even sounds barbaric when you think of it. But it's a good movie. But even then, your criticisms of Nick Cage are valid. They're valid. It's a bizarre movie, and if Werner Herzog's name isn't attached to it, it might not even carry the same legitimacy, I think.
Yeah.
But it is a great.
Well, Nick Cage gets paired. I think he gets lucky more than he gets good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I know what you mean.
With especially like with Kick-Ass, that felt like the perfect role for his craziness.
Yeah, the role is written in this way where, if you read the comic books, I believe he's called Big Daddy, but I might be pulling from BioShock, is written in this very kind of acting way that parents do, right? Where it's you, even when your parents do it to you, they're sort of putting on a voice, and they're not really being their genuine self, but this is soothing and you need to hear it. And so it doesn't actually, anyone can kind of play that role when you think of it. because it's just that parent voice that isn't necessarily like real.
Yeah.
It's something every parent learns how to do, and it's not necessary. It doesn't really calm you, but it's because it's your parent saying it. You're like, okay, shoot me with this bulletproof vest. I'm good to go. It's like it's that riding a bike scene. Is that I'm not actually. I don't really trust you that this bike isn't just going to fall over. It only has 2 wheels. Like, but that's the voice. Okay, John Travolta.
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction is a good movie.
I've never seen it. That's another one that's on my list.
It's a good movie. You have to recognize that he's actually acting. He does a really good job, especially if you just want to watch a clip, because Quentin Tarantino has enough money. If you just want to watch a clip, watch him in the bathroom at Uma Thurman's house, and it is a very genuine moment that everyone can relate to, of being on a not date situation and feeling as though things are going kind of romantic, and he's a legitimate actor in at least that one moment. I can say that much.
Yeah.
What have you seen that he's in?
Well, like what comes to mind is The Punisher. That was super weird. His character in that with Thomas Jane.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot he's even in that. You're right, he is.
He was
he's
awful.
An actor. Very bad in that. What else?
Grease, but that doesn't really feel fair. Like I think Grease is exactly what they intended to make.
I'll say this about Grease. I still don't know what that story is supposed to be. Is it supposed to be camp? Because I don't think the people that made it think it's camp.
No.
I think the people that made it think, no, this is supposed to be a genuine story of a greaser who falls in love and all these things. It's a musical, but I think they think it's genuine, in which case he's a bad actor.
Yes.
Because the whole movie comes off as camp.
Yeah.
It's hard to know, though, because I think a lot of Grease people would tell you it's camp.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in between. I think the intention is somewhere in between. I think the story they're trying to tell is genuine, but the medium they're telling it in is campy. Like, I think that was the...
I would say that people like John Waters, who, genius of camp, would tell you, no, that person is what I draw inspiration from. That person, they are what creates the genre of camp and what I can steal from because they don't know what it is. I think that Grease is to camp as what the local TV commercial is to Tim and Eric. That they are right on the line of making something genuine that catches people's attention, but in the end, they're not. I don't think the person that wrote Grease can actually write a camp film.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah. What else have you seen that John Travolta's in? This is fascinating now.
Face Off. Face Off is a crazy movie.
Face Off's a bad movie.
Yeah.
Face Off. I was very. It is a John Woo. It's not a great John Woo movie. This is where this racism of American viewers come in. It is the John Woo movie that got distributed here.
Yeah.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
It is not a great John Woo movie. It's a movie where here's what you go. It's called Face Off. Okay, so is it like? Either this is a bad action movie where like 2 people are going to face off. It's like, no, it's called Face Off. And then you're watching and you're like, oh my God, Face Off. Oh my God, Face Off. It's the stupidest thing in the world. And the whole time I watched that movie being like, this can't be a real thing. Is this really happening? And I mean, it looks great and he understands action, but it's not like his Hong Kong cinema stuff. It's definitely not genuine. It's just the one that got released here.
Yeah.
I think is part of it,
yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
I want to say Broken Arrow. Does that sound right? Is that? I think
sound right, but I haven't.
Kevin Bacon and John Travolta. I'm pretty sure John Travolta is like a terrorist.
Because Broken Arrow is like a term. Yeah, I've never seen it.
It felt on the same lines as Face Off, but it might just be when I saw it. It was like back to back.
Have you seen Mike?
What's that?
Have you seen Michael?
Michael is an interesting movie. That's when he's the angel, right?
Yeah, another hard one that's hard to read. I really liked Michael when it came out. I was quite young when it came out, and I saw it in theaters. But I thought he played the role well. I thought he sort of and I don't know if whether his ineptitude as an actor is what made him play well, because Michael was not relatable as a person. Michael was very relatable as this otherworldly being.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes me think that he wasn't a good actor.
Yeah. Well, it kind of hits you over the head with its intention. Like it's, oh, this is when you're supposed to feel sad, or this is when you're supposed to feel happy, or this is when you're supposed to feel hope. Like there's not a lot of subtlety to that.
Right.
And so,
which you wouldn't discredit a movie. I guess people that don't know, Michael is about. I don't think he's Michael the Avenging Angel. He's just Michael, an angel. He's just like another angel named Michael, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's clear. I think it can go either way, but it doesn't. I don't think it changes the story much.
He never has a flaming sword.
No.
And I don't think Michael in the Bible is ever described as having healing powers, which perhaps maybe that's what it is that this is the actual demon, it's the actual angel Michael's sort of redemption story that he doesn't. You're right, it could go either way.
Yeah.
But it's an angel named Michael, and it's not clear whether it's the Michael from the Bible who fights Satan at the end of the world. But he heals people and is sort of, it's kind of unclear whether this guy Michael is a genuine angel or whether he's just a sort of healer priest type person, or whether he's a scam artist, or whether he's just a delusional person with superpowers. It goes all over the place. It's a very interesting movie. But I think that you wouldn't begrudge that movie, like you're saying, that if it's beating you over the head with it, it's like, no, it's about an angel. Beat me over the head with it.
Yeah.
That's what that story should do.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt very much like a Hallmark movie from my memory. It's a higher quality than that, than a TV movie. But the tone felt similar.
It falls into this category of movie where I talk about a lot, where it's movie that will get forgotten unless we talk about it. It's like Michael and Powder came out within years of each other, and no one will remember. No one will remember Michael or Powder unless we all talk about it. It's this genre of movie where at the time, it's like the Da Vinci Code. At the time, you cannot imagine, if you talk to someone who's under the age of, I'd say 17 right now, and you say, would you believe that there was this movie called The Da Vinci Code that the whole country was talking about? Like every single person in the country was talking about. They will tell you, like, no, there's no way that every single person in the country at the time was talking about this movie. Like, I don't believe you. There's these movies like Powder and Michael, which the nation was enraptured with.
Yeah.
But will be forgotten. Will forever be forgotten.
I think because it doesn't really, well, I never saw the Da Vinci Code, but at least with Michael, it doesn't really challenge you to change anything about the way you think. So it's like, oh, that was good, or that was interesting, but that's it. If you don't have something to take away from it, there's no reason to remember it.
When you think about the two movies in terms of challenging people, though, Michael is a more challenging movie than the Da Vinci Code, which in the end, the whole Da Vinci Code is saying, well, it's not what people were offended by was that there was this divine providence of God that was perhaps being seen as a conspiracy. But instead, what the Da Vinci Code is saying is like, oh no, just that there is a conspiracy group using the symbols of the church, which they know won't go away, to sort of send signals to each other. But when you think about Michael is much more challenging because it's forcing everyone to take a line, because Michael is definitely an angel according to the movie.
Yeah.
And so like in a way, Michael is more offensive to anyone at one side or the other, because it's saying like, oh no, this is a new chapter of Christianity we're writing, or it's saying like, this is real religion, or it's like it's a fake religion. It's much more challenging, but that movie was much more accepted and everyone was on board with it, as opposed to Da Vinci Code, which is like, yeah, I guess if you wanted to hide messages to people, an easy way to do it would be an organization that's protected by, like, you know, historical landmark stuff. Like there's lots of laws saying, please do not destroy the Trevi Fountain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like great way to send messages over thousands of years. But Michael is offensive to all versions of religion. It's either saying some dude wrote like a new chapter of the Bible which stars John Travolta, or it's saying like, no, this John Travolta character is a scam, and like it should be much less accepted.
Yeah.
But in the end, whether challenging or not, it's just it's one of these movies like the Da Vinci Code, which I think will be for, despite Dan Brown being very prolific, it's gonna be one of these movies and stories that people won't remember the impact it had at the time. Just that everyone was talking about it. I don't think people will believe you. They think you're making it up.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the case too with movies even before our time. Like,
I'm sure stuff. Yeah.
Alien is always used an example of how people are like, oh, it's so tropey, but yet it set the tropes. It did it. It was groundbreaking when it came out, but everyone copied from it. So now it feels played out. If you see it for the first time.
Speaking of that directorial technique of Werner Herzog, the same thing was implored by the effects team on Alien, which was the scene where John Hurt spoiler, when John Hurt's the alien comes out of his chest.
Yeah.
They told the actors, okay, everyone stay where you are. We're just going to reset for 5 minutes for the effects thing, and then they just kept rolling. And it was quiet, and then the effect went off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I honestly, even saying it's tropey, I think people forget the other side of it, which we don't do a lot anymore. And I would love this to be a trope, which is the involvement of H.R. Giger, who is – we don't make movies that way anymore. It used to be that people would say to an artist like Salvador Dali or H.R. Giger, hey, I want to make a movie that has a plot, but it is the vision of H.R. Giger. It's the vision of Salvador Dali. I wish that was a trope. I wish the trope was they approached artists, they approached visual artists. I mean, even artists I don't like, could you imagine a Jeff Koons movie where everything is in silver and mylar and balloons and weird things like that, or a Damien Hirst movie where there's all these things they don't approach. I wish you say it's tropey, but I wish it was more tropey. H.R. Giger is the name of Alien that people don't remember. I mean, he really did change the game in terms of effects, and I honestly don't think there's been a movie since Alien that implores the same artistic creativity. You look at the effects-driven movies like The Hobbit and things like that. They are not taking the chances that Alien took. I kind of resent as a sculpture artist. H.R. Giger is a huge inspiration to me because his understanding of anatomy and things like that are beautiful. And I wish people were taking that line on movies, but they're not. They're not taking chances. The closest one I can think of is, did you see crap, I'm forgetting. Not Interstellar. Interstellar was good, but The Visitor.
I don't think so. Who's in that?
That was Amy Adams and the guy who plays not Amy Adams. I'm not gonna remember the female lead, but Jeremy Renner was in it. Not that I don't remember female leads, by the way, but I said, now that I said Amy Adams, all I can think is Amy Adams.
Yeah.
Even not Amy Adams. Now it's in my head. But Jeremy Renner and The Arrival. Excuse me, not The Visitor. The Arrival.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that one either. Was that the Jennifer Lawrence? No.
Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt, they're stuck on a ship in space. I didn't see that either.
That's not The Arrival, right?
That's not The Arrival. The Arrival is a very hardcore sci-fi. That's The Passenger. Jesus, people got to start being better with these names. Sorry for saying.
No, you're good. You're fine.
But it's that was whatchamacallit, starlet bait. I knew that from the beginning. I knew that wasn't going to be good. Yeah. That's a remake of a movie called Solaris, which was much better. Solaris is about a guy who finds himself awake on a ship, and his dead wife is a ghost on it. Classic Hollywood. Another movie that'll be forgotten. But The Arrival had these really great aliens, and it was a different kind of take. It definitely drew from ink drawings and calligraphy, and it was a very different take on aliens, and visually was stunning. That's the only sci-fi movie I've seen that's really taking a visual chance like that.
Yeah, I don't think I saw it. Have you seen the original Predator? original costume they had for the Predator?
Oh, is it different than the crazy fishnet lady they had at the in the movie?
Yeah. Let me see if I can
Yeah, send it to
pull
me. Oh, we
pull a
could get a
picture.
live time reaction.
It's worth being seen.
I'm super excited. Now those are is that a I guess if I'm not distracting you, I'll keep talking to Phil. I don't know. Those are that's a genuine Hollywood mashup, right? Like I don't think that anyone involved in Alien had anything to do with Predator, right? It just happened to be that those entities got bought at the same time. Or am I totally wrong? And they are both of the same creative team, and that it then I would love to know the history there.
I think it was just they're kind of competitors in the space, and then it just grew from the fans. But I don't know.
Right, if they're the same team.
Yeah, I don't know if they were the same team or not. I don't think so, but I could be completely wrong.
It's much rarer that they are the same team. Like that's DC Comics. A lot of people we now think of this shifting in IPs. We think of as so strange. We think of oh man, now X-Men are a part of this universe. Like that is not strange actually. The forming of Marvel and DC, the comic entities was, oh, we are Action Comics and we have Superman and we have they had like Tarzan or something. Like they had like weird titles, and then they're like, okay, we'll buy this comic book. Okay, we'll buy this comic book, and then that becomes the DC universe. Shifting titles is much more common, but it seems as though Alien and Predator seem so linked. Like they don't join. I know they are in one of the Capcom games too, so it's an all over. Or Capcom maybe Capcom did it because Capcom doesn't own Marvel and doesn't own but owns their own video game characters, and now those video game characters have become a part of it. But I wonder whether Capcom is the creator of everything we like in this world. That they just are like, oh yeah, all these Marvel characters should be together, and now the Marvel universe is a thing, and oh yeah, Alien and Predator. Oh man, I got to look up the history. Have you found the original thing here?
Yeah, I sent it to you on Twitter. So this is
on
Twitter. What they had to act.
Wait,
against.
Can you send it on Skype? Because my Twitter's just on my. Oh no, hold on, I can do it. Hold on, let me look. It's even better that way. Let's see. Message. Oh, did you at me? Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, here we go. I'm reacting now. I'm trying to. No,
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Nope. That's what they had to act against. And that was the intention. I think they were going to do some post-production on top of that. I think that's why it's all one color, so they could chroma key it out and stuff. But I think the shape was the intention.
Like a necklace kind of, not necklace like LACE, but necklace, LESS kind of creature.
Yeah,
that he's much more humanoid in the real thing, and that is awful to act against.
Yeah. Oh, man, it is terrible. It would be. It's amazing that they were able to come around and fix that. I think
Here's what I'll say for this shape is that when you think of the plot of the Predator, I kind of like a less athletic looking person. But on paper, it sounds better that he doesn't have a neck, that it looks like he's cumbersome to move, because then it kind of seems like a contest, doesn't it? When you look at the Predator, he's almost as jacked as and athletic looking to a human as Arnold Schwarzenegger is, but this kind of awkward looking being, I think it still would have been an interesting story, but not nearly as iconic.
Oh no, this would have died if they wouldn't have changed the color or done something to this costume, which I'm sure they would have somewhat, but this movie would not have survived.
Maybe when you release the episode, I'm hoping that maybe we'll respond at some point with the image of it, because it is interesting to think of the Predator as less mobile, but it definitely is not. It's not something you would have remembered.
Yeah.
It's not at all.
But anyways, the reason I brought that up was talking about, how they did costumes back in the day and the importance of having good costume artists, because they brought in someone who created what we now know as Predator. I don't remember who it was, but it makes such a huge difference having that other, the current Predator.
If you're a fan of Alien, you should go watch. You should go just like go to a bookstore, and sometimes they'll have it with the production books. I know a few years ago when it was the anniversary and they started doing Alien stuff again, they released some of Giger's designs. But just go look up H.R. Giger because he is an absolute nut, and it's amazing to see how it inspired the movie. Yeah, I mean. If you look at old school effects artists like the Wolfenstein people and all these guys that really made effects, it used to be much more important, but now we have houses. There's not auteur theory, as we call it, one person designs it to effects anymore. It really is a team doing it, and I mean rightfully so with CGI. It's just so it is so much math, it's so much computer calculations and things like that, and programming that one person cannot do it.
Yeah.
It's impossible the way they've entrenched themselves. But go watch Clash of the Titans, where it's a completely different era.
Not the new one.
Costumes. No, not the new one.
That one was not very good.
I will tell an amazing story. It was my thing for a while to go to. It still is my thing to go to summer blockbusters, knowing I'm going to hate it.
Yeah.
And Clash of the Titans was the closest I ever got to getting kicked out of a movie because we would go and be like, "This is going to be bad," and I would go with my friends and talk during it and laugh. And I literally, this was the closest we ever got because they actually called someone from the theater. But I literally couldn't stop laughing. I was so confused by everything that happened in the movie that I was genuinely like – and when someone came from the theater, they're like, you need to be more quiet. And I was like, can you please tell me what's going on in this movie? Because I will be more quiet if you can tell me what Liam Neeson wants and what's happening. But I'm so confused right now. I really almost got kicked out in Benicio del Toro's Wolfman, where I just couldn't stop laughing the entire time.
Yeah, I didn't even try with those. Even did you see the new Mummy?
Yes, I did, and I was so upset. I was so upset because I was on vacation. So when you go on vacation, just let's go see a movie. You have downtime. You want to do something while you're on vacation, feel more as though you're in leisure time. So you just go see a movie. It's one of those things you would do. Just go see a movie because I don't want to sit around and do nothing. And so I saw The Mummy,
which is ironic because that's exactly what watching a movie is.
Right. It is. It does feel like doing nothing, but at the same time getting credit for relaxing. It feels so you're getting more out of the vacation. And I went and I was like, I had not read any. I don't read reviews. I don't read anything like that. And so I was like, I'll go see The Mummy. And it was so. I mean, it really was bad. Nothing happens, and there's a weird Jekyll and Hyde element, and it's like someone was like, hey, what can we do that's very visually unexciting? Well, we can make the whole thing green. Does that make it worse? Oh yeah, it's definitely worse. I feel like if you looked at a just pale green screen for a while, you're gonna fall asleep. I actually asked them for my money back. Here's how much I hated the movie. I left about 50 minutes in, which by the way, movies are too long. I left 50 minutes in and I said, can I get my money back or a credit? This is so bad. And they're like, hold on, let me get the manager. I was so bored from the movie that I was getting like a credit. Like he was just going to get the manager that I left. I still needed more excitement than waiting around for the manager. That I had to be like, I can't wait 5 minutes for money. Like, I'm so bored. I need to go look at something exciting happening that I can't stick around for waiting for the manager. And I just burned the $12 and I gave it to them. Yeah, I feel silly, but at the same time, I was that bored. I needed to go do something. I forget what I ended up doing. It was mind numbing.
Yeah. Well, getting back to my original point about the Defenders, the shaky cam fighting stuff now doesn't get as much hate as Cloverfield got, which I feel like was much easier to tell what was going on, even though it was so shaky.
You know what? I think it's because narrative-wise, it brought attention to the shaky cam. There was a narrative reason to notice something was shaky, which was that it was shot by someone's home camera. I think that probably the Defenders and Jason Bourne, which, by the way, I know that there's a story on set of Jason Bourne where Matt Damon and everyone involved did not think that this effect would work.
Which is sad because they did so well with that, and yet everyone who copies it is just awful.
I don't know if I know why. I don't want to say that I'm so in tune with audiences that I know why I responded. But I'll tell you why I like Jason Bourne as opposed to other shaky things, and why I like Cloverfield as opposed to other shaky things. And it's that the narrative of it works. In Jason Bourne, when I watch a James Bond, which I'm a big fan of James Bond, I do not feel like he's in trouble at all.
Yeah.
It feels like he comes in the room, and of course, Sean Connery will have, I'll throw you out of the train, Jaws. I don't care. Get out of here. There's no ticket. And he throws him out of the train. Okay? Like, I don't feel Sean Connery is in danger at all. Jason Bourne, I very much felt like he was a spy on the run.
Yeah.
I personally experienced it as, oh my gosh, this person's coming at me. Oh, I gotta kill him. And then, what just happened? Like, that, it narrative-wise worked for me. Same with Cloverfield, where it's like, I don't think I'm going to be a great cinematographer if there's a monster eating towers and I'm underground in the subway.
Yeah.
Right? I think that because of that, it called attention to the shaky cam. And look at a film like, what was the other J.J. Abrams thing that people wanted to think was the new E.T., but now everyone forgets about?
Super 8.
Super 8. Yeah, nobody cares about that movie anymore. Everyone was like, it's going to be a childhood classic. It's like, yeah, anyone care anymore? Or was this just all the AV club saying it would be a childhood classic? Yeah, that movie is decidedly not shaky cam at all, even in the scenes that are supposed to be Super 8. It doesn't look like it's shot by a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
It looks like it's shot by a 40-year-old in his prime DP handling a Super 8. It looks like it's shot by J.J. with a Super 8.
I think getting back to the Bourne Identity stuff, I think you can still see and tell what's going on. They're not using shaky cam to hide their lack of ability to do a fight scene. Like, I think those fight scenes on a static camera would still look impressive.
Yeah, even with I think, like, we were talking about old school kung fu, like, that is a thing where they were very much about, like, showing the grace of it. Essentially all it was how can we showcase form martial arts in a movie sense, which it was at that time, kind of forgotten even in the martial arts world. And they do. It's very much wide shots. It's very much this form type fighting, but they would cut away to hide effects like someone getting punched through a wall or something, or someone falling off a cliff. But I think you're right. Like, if you watch that knife fight scene, which is the iconic scene in The First Bourne, where he's in that apartment and you think it's a safe house and he gets attacked. That scene doesn't cut corners on effects. They smash that guy through that table. They smash stuff. The knife is coming at him. The shaky cam only enhances it. I think you're totally right. Like, they're not cheap. It's not a cheap way to cut away.
Yeah.
Let's break a whole table. Let's break a whole wall, but let's enhance this with this, awkward kind of vision of it.
Yeah. Well, you ever see the, I think it was Taken 1 or Taken 2 when he jumps over
I've seen all the Taken.
When he climbs the fence and they use 15 different angles to get him over it.
Liam Neeson's like 60 years old.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I know there's a reason for it, but that's kind of the point, is they're cutting away to hide his inability to do things. And so with action movies,
sorry, go on.
With action movies now, they use shaky cam and quick cuts and bad lighting to hide and cover up their inability to fight. Like, you look at John Wick or The Raid, when you have people who are actually, spending time learning the choreography, you can have a really impressive fight scene. But if you don't have those people, if you don't have that investment into learning how to do it, you end up with stuff like The Defenders.
Keanu Reeves, I think every movie listener listening to this right now needs to appreciate that Keanu Reeves is like the greatest living martial artist we've ever had in the history of the world. And like so many people, I think that the bad reputation of the second two Matrixes, which I love, and it's not Matrices, there's only one Matrix. So it's plural, it's one Matrix, and there are plural movies. So the correct way to say it is Matrixes. he is so athletic, and the John Wick movies totally prove that. And I think you're totally right with the raid and things like that. And I just think everyone needs to appreciate right now that he, in these next years, like if they make a John Wick 3, it's going to be like, I mean, it's going to be the greatest martial arts movie of all time. And I hope people learn to appreciate him while he's alive, and not like Bruce Lee, and sort of appreciate how athletic he is.
I hope
it is amazing.
I hope they don't make a John Wick 3, but I hope the same team makes another movie with Keanu Reeves. Like,
right, okay, that's true. The John Wick thing, because what would it be? It was like, I'll spoil a little bit.
Yeah.
John Wick 2. It would be way too, because this was already essentially what they were saying is what a John Wick 3 would be if you saw the ending of John Wick 2 was like John Wick 2 times 100. That yes, every assassin is after him times 1,000,000.
Yeah.
You know, like I think it is inconceivable. He would have to have Neo type powers to get over it. I think John Wick's dead is, I think, the implication of the last one. That he's a dead man walking. Is that no one could survive that. I actually think it's a sad ending that he didn't win.
Yeah,
is my interpretation of it. That even John Wick cannot survive what's happened to him.
Yeah,
he's out of the game.
Yeah, because I really liked the first one, and the second one, the action was great, but the story was like not too much, but it was like not grounded enough for me to like really get into it. Where the first one,
I showed someone the comparison between the two action scenes, and like when you watch John Wick 1, even narrative wise, it's like, okay, this is a really good fighter, and then you watch John Wick 2 and you're like, this is a superhero.
Yeah,
this guy, like you watch, I didn't realize it because I was kind of pumped for the movie, and I loved being I saw it in a really full theater. I had to sit in the front row. It was amazing, but that energy kind of made me blasé to the fact that like, oh, this is not realistic at all.
Yeah. The scene that really took me out of the movie was him and Common walking down that long hallway or whatever you want to call that, where they're shooting at each other in the crowds.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is
at the club, and they're just like, boom. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What's going on? But I have to admit, it earns like movies like The Avengers they haven't earned the right to really be goofy.
Yeah.
And I think the more they keep going with them, they're not grounding it all. Like
no.
After Iron Man 3 I felt like all the goofiness was deserved, and it was so right that, you know, Iron Man had earned all these sort of tropes and things like that, but John Wick had earned like the biggest when I was explaining to people why you should watch John Wick and how crazy the movies are, is the biggest laugh that every theater got with John Wick 2 was Lawrence Fishburne offers John Wick a gun and says, but I'm charging you like $1 million per bullet. And so here's a gun with 6 bullets. And the theater breaks out laughing, the idea that John Wick has to use 6 bullets. Like you can't get those types of moments unless you make an extreme character.
Oh yeah. I think if you watch John Wick 1 and then 2, it's a much stronger movie, because John Wick 1 starts off in the real world and slowly ramps up. You know, if say you start at level 0 with John Wick 1, it ends at a 5, but John Wick 2 starts at a 5 and ends at a 10. But if you watch them back to back, you at least get that ramp up to the craziness of the underworld of the assassins.
It's so funny because with this conversation being freeform, we've somehow managed to what I call litmus movies, where it's like, you know, if you like Predator in a certain era, even now, a lot of people like Predator, but if you like Predator, it was this kind of indication that you knew about all the action movies. And John Wick is the new version of that, where even though it's super popular, like I still don't think it does not get the money that a Star Wars or other action movies get. I think John Wick is like the new kind of Predator in a way, where it's like if you're and same with Cloverfield, if you're a real sci-fi fan, like you love Cloverfield, but you might not care about it if you don't really like sci-fi. And it's John Wick is that for action movies, where it's like, if you love action movies, like of course you know about John Wick. Like, and that's the sort of test when you're at a party or a social gathering. It's like, yeah, you seen John Wick? And the people that like punching and martial arts, they're like, of course I've seen John Wick.
Yeah, no, It's really good. That's kind of how I feel about The Raid. Like,
The Raid was that for a while, yeah.
Those are the movies I like to, like, when someone who likes movies, those are the movies I like to talk about.
Man, The Raid. Oh, I could talk for another 2 hours about The Raid.
Well,
The Raid 2.
let's wrap this one up. Cloverfield, since we didn't talk about it at all, but we
talked a little
bit. We have a system of if it comes on TV, are you going to go outside, change the channel, turn the TV off? Are you going to watch the movie from where you're at, start it over, invite people over, or get popcorn somewhere? That's kind of our rating scale. What would you do if this came on TV?
If I'll say this. I am ashamed I don't own Cloverfield on DVD. I've had to make a cutoff for myself because I'm spending much too much money on DVDs for a long time, but I love bonus features. If this movie comes on, I'm absolutely watching it. I'm absolutely telling people I'm watching it. This is my day if I have the time to do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch this again. I haven't seen it for so long. I actually saw it 3 times in theaters, which is not something I ever do. I hate rewatching movies, basically, and I saw this one 3 times. The third,
I am the opposite. I need to rewatch. If I like a movie, there are movies I consider my favorite movies. I still have to keep watching because I so doubt my knowledge of it.
I need like a 10-year gap before I can enjoy a movie on a second watch.
See, I'm the other way. I need someone to tell me to go to work and to see my friends. Like I'm the type of person who'll be like, no, I obviously need to watch Cloverfield 9 more times before I get it.
Well, I think I'm always in the search for that new, like, oh, this was so amazing. So I'm watching new and different things. I'm going
to send you a blog post where I talk about the myth of the cultured person, where this is how people interpret movies nowadays. But I find more and more nowadays when I say to someone like I said this about Moana just the other day. I said I really hated it, but I watched it 4 times and now I like it. And someone was like, "Why did you watch it 4 times if you hated it?" I was like, "Oh, because I had to watch it 4 times. If I had to get why I didn't like it, and then I ended up liking it."
Yeah. Like, I've seen Moana a bunch of times because I got 3 kids, and I'm not a fan. But kids make it worse.
You're not a fan, or you're not a fan?
I'm not a fan. I do not enjoy when Moana comes on. It's.
I'll pitch you one thing the next time because I'm sure it's going to come on again because I know kids and musicals. The sense of scale in that movie is something really interesting to watch out for because they actually mess with it quite a bit. If you look at what's the Rock's character's name? Whatever his name is.
Maui?
Maui. If you look at Maui's fish hook, his fish hook is meant to look like a fish hook at the end of a fishing line. And they mess with this whole movie, this idea that Maui is this bigger than life presence. But actually, if you don't understand that he's supposed to be a massive creature, he actually looks very small. He looks like he's holding a tiny little fishing hook and that he's the size of nothing. And there's lots of creatures. The big creature that they fight in the end is a crab. And if you watch that scene and you say at the beginning of that scene, Maui is an inch tall, that scene is totally different because you're like, oh, it's a crab. How big could a crab be? And there's this sense of scale where if you decide Maui is not a 6'6", the rock-sized person, it's actually quite interesting. Other than that, the story is a little strange and conceited. But so I agree with you, and I don't have a Lin-Manuel Miranda fascination either. So
that was my downfall. Is I really like Hamilton, the soundtrack to Hamilton. I think the music's really good and enjoyable. But then when I heard the music for Moana, I was like, oh, this is just, them. Everyone's like, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing, and that's how it all came off. It fed from praise. And he's like, you know what? I am amazing. I should be making Disney musicals. And it was awful.
I've heard from people that if you like Lin-Manuel Miranda, Frozen is kind of a departure from what he's done before. But Maui is like a bad facsimile of Hamilton. That it's like this is trying to be the same kind of hip hop genre, but it's not really working.
Yeah, no, it was.
I love the songs. I like the songs in Moana more than I like the songs in Frozen.
He did Frozen?
Much more than I like Hamilton. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure he did both. I could be wrong. I'm often wrong. Is there any other ratings we need to do?
Nope, that's it. You want to give me your Twitter?
Sure, Big Little Weasel. But more importantly than that, Soundbite. SOUNDBYTE. If you look up Let's Start a Cult podcast, we're doing a whole series with them. It's the Soundbite is like the short podcast app for podcasters. So look us up on Soundbite. Let's Start a Cult podcast, one word. And we're not starting a cult. It's just join us. It'll be fun.
And then you can get a hold of us at I Seen That Pod, me directly at Alan RJR. And if you want, you can go tell my co-host Taylor how much worse off he is than Mike. Just tweet him that. You're much better co-host than he is. So.
It's throw down. I'll have to come back on, just me and him, and make fun of you.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to record, so I'm not too worried about it.